Welcome to Marketing Mondays, inspired by a YouTuber you might know. The difference is that I actually upload on Mondays. Now, a few weeks ago, there has been a big update to tariffs, so I'll briefly cover what's up and what changed because it's confusing, especially since the president changes his mind so much. So all countries have at least a 10% tariff since April 5th. In June, there's a 40% tariff for all transshipped goods, trying to dissuade people from evading tariffs. But starting August 7th, there have been additional penalties if goods are found to be evading tariffs by transshipping. The potential penalties are unclear, but ultimately the buyer is the one who has to foot the bill for these costs. Tariffs for many countries also increased to 15%, which includes most of Africa, pretty much all of Europe, including the EU and Asia. This tariff increase is a response to reciprocal tariffs, but some countries have it worse. Notably, Taiwan and Vietnam have a 20% tariff. These are two big exporters to the US, so these tariffs will have a big impact on the economy. Also, Brazil has a 50% tariff, although there's some exceptions to some of their goods. There's also 25% tariff on India, and that's likely to increase to 50% due to India buying Russian oil. Although there is one exception to these tariffs: China! After China threatened to not give America rare earth metals, Trump made a deal to halt all tariff hikes on China. Right now, America has a 30% tariff on Chinese imports, and China has a 10% tariff on American imports. But even if you somehow manage to get around all these tariffs, you would still likely get a more than 10% tariff since so many countries are being tariffed now. These tariffs are putting more strain on the American economy than it can handle. Trump has recently been doing everything in his power to cut rates, yet Powell has stood firm and has not been moving federal rates. Rates have been high to help reduce inflation, and Powell kept the rates high due to the impact of tariffs on the economy. However, with the current environment of the economy, Powell has finally cracked.
And the stability of the unemployment rate and other labor market measures allows us to proceed carefully as we consider changes to our policy stance. Nonetheless, with policy in restrictive territory, the baseline outlook and the shifting balance of risks may warrant adjusting our policy stance.
Let's go! The Dow Jones is up, the S&P 500 is up, and with lower rates, people will finally be spending more money. Powell's goal of decreasing rates is to help the job market with rising unemployment. While the job market seemed to be doing great, it ended up being revised to reveal it's not as good as the numbers suggest. Although lower rates means inflation of the dollar will be on the rise. Comparing the dollar to the euro, the value of the dollar has already been dropping since Powell made the suggestion. Now at first it seems like Powell might have done this due to pressure from Trump. Here's a clip from Republican Ohio Senator Bernie Moreno a few days before Powell's announcement.
Only commenting on the wisdom of tariffs.
The chairman's over there in the conversations. I'm going to show you a chart here. This is car prices.
I'm paying attention, however.
This is car prices since this year. Car prices are down. Car prices are down. Inflation in America is down. We got elected by millions of voters. You got elected by one person. He doesn't want you to be in that job.
Clearly inflation is down if car prices are down. So this must be why Powell's considering cutting rates, because he was shown that car prices were down. What a silly goose. Also, another member of the Fed, Lisa Cook, is being accused of mortgage fraud. You could say that Lisa is cooked. Recently, Trump tried to get Jerome Powell fired for cause due to a $2.5 billion building renovation. Since it seems unlikely for Trump to fire Powell with cause, he moved on to Lisa Cook.
Are you going to fire Lisa Cook, the Fed governor, over her mortgage fraud?
I'll fire her if she doesn't resign, what she did was bad, so I'll fire her if she doesn't resign.
Now, did she really commit mortgage fraud? She might have rented out a primary residence. Also, according to this tweet, she listed another home designated for personal residence for rent. Now, of course, Cook denies it, saying, "I have no intention of being bullied to step down from my position because of some questions raised in a tweet," she said in a statement. Now, keep in mind that Trump needs to find a cause to fire a Federal Reserve member because the Federal Reserve is supposed to be independent from the president. Each president is supposed to have limited influence on who can be a Federal Reserve. While Trump will eventually get to swap out Powell if he wants to, it's not enough. But interestingly, Cook refers to Trump's accusations as bullying. Well, This might be because he's done this before. Mr. Polt has also accused Senator Adam Schiff, a Californian Democrat who led Congress inquiries into Mr. Trump during a president's first term, of engaging in mortgage fraud. He also leveled a similar accusation against Loretta James, the New York Attorney General, who won a civil fraud trial against Mr. Trump before he took office on his second term. Even if this were true, and that Lisa Cook was a complete fraud, this is still a bad look for Trump, especially after trying to get Powell fired. The president is supposed to have little influence over the Federal Reserve for a reason. The biggest reason is that the president is not expected to be an expert in economics. That's why we have experts in the job. Each member serves a 14-year term, and they are staggered in such a way to limit how many people a president can appoint to the Federal Reserve in a given time frame. What's crazy about Trump wanting Lisa Cook fired is he already has to pick a Federal Reserve member right now. And he wants to get Stephen Moran in, who's Trump's chair of Council of Economic Advisors. Moran also wrote a 41-page paper on why tariffs are great and why we should use them. Also, Moran has previously called for overhauling the structure of the Fed if Congress gives that White House more control over firing Fed governors. Although eventually he said that the Fed should be independent. So it's really a mystery what he really thinks. If Trump can't get Powell fired, he's going to try to get someone he wants to be elected in chair instead. If Trump can't get Powell fired, he's going to try to get someone he wants elected as chair instead. Trump desperately wants rates to go down by any means necessary. So with all these threats, could this be why Powell was finally considering cutting rates? Probably not. Powell has a track record of taking his job seriously and acting independently, as he should be. After all, there are reports that the economy is stalling. People are moving to new homes and new cities at around the lowest rate on record. Companies have fewer roles for entry-level workers trying to launch their lives. Workers who do have jobs are hanging on to them by a thread. And, with jobs drying up, people are applying to places further away. However, since the job market is so competitive, some jobs aren't offering relocation assistance. If you are someone who recently graduated college, scraping together enough money to move, especially with student loans, is almost impossible. As of right now, the trend of the job hopping is over. In 2023, only 7.8% of Americans moved, the lowest rate logged since U.S. Census records began in 1948. The ability to move to accept job offers can actually change a college graduate's life, as recent college graduates who are unemployed are more than 3 times as likely to be unemployed a decade later than those who quickly secure a good job. Part of the reason it's so hard to move is because people can't sell their houses even if they wanted to. In 2007, everyone was buying houses. If only people knew that if they waited a year, they could get better rates. As years progressed, some people were able to get a mortgage rate below 3%. Compare that to mortgage rates now, which are between 6 to 7%. Having a mortgage of around or below 3% is almost too good. It's like these people have golden handcuffs cuffed to their house. Well, that's what's been happening with many Americans who bought a home many years ago. And even though Powell said he's considering lowering rates, it still won't be anywhere close to rates people have right now. Homeowners will not find better rates than they have right now, so despite the high prices houses are going for, people can't just sell them because it's not worth it to buy another house with a worse mortgage rate. Home sales have tumbled by around 36% from January 2022, and activity could slow further in the months ahead. Mortgage rates shot back up to above 7% last month, and still hover near 2-decade highs, which could prompt buyers to give up for the rest of the year. With so few people willing to sell their homes, prices are skyrocketing. This is another reason why so few people are selling their homes. Even if a person does sell their home, they will struggle to find a home in an area they want as there are so few homes for sale. The housing market has become a paradox where people won't sell their home because there are no homes to buy, but because they won't sell their home, there are less homes to buy. Jerome Powell isn't the only person noticing a stagnant economy. Companies are noticing it too. Consumer spending stagnated in the first half of this year, according to federal data issued this week, and the CEO of Chipotle Mexican Grill, Kroger, and Procter & Gamble, amongst others, are telling investors that the customers are more strapped, or appear to feel that way. People are finding any way they can to cut costs and save money. Perhaps people are washing their clothes less, as P&G reported less sales for Tide detergent, Charmin toilet paper, and Pantene hair products. Well, people are not using these products less, but are buying in bulk more. People are also choosing more economic options for food. People making over $150,000 are going to Olive Garden over more fancier restaurants. Sales at burrito chain Chipotle, where a build-your-own bowl costed $10 to $16, were down last quarter, while Domino's Pizza reeled in more dinners where it's 2-for-1 deal and other promotions. People are clearly trying to save money where they can. People sense that the economy is not doing as well as promised. Americans now spend nearly 4 hours a day thinking about money, and I wouldn't be surprised if those Americans wished they could spend those hours making money instead. The number one issue people voted for Trump is to solve grocery prices. And the May poll of consumer sentiment conducted by a consulting firm, McKinsey, found that people plan to adjust their spending in response to tariffs. Rising prices was a top concern of those surveyed, far outweighing issues such as immigration, international conflict, and political polarization. I've seen more and more people disinterested with politics online, and I think the biggest reason is people just want the world to become more affordable. People don't care what else is going on in the country if they're struggling to pay for a place to stay and something to eat. Competition in the food industry matters no more than ever before. There are less and less customers with less money to go around, and companies need to fight for it. While Chili's is finding a happy medium between the cheapness of fast foods with quality of restaurants, other restaurants are not so lucky. Last year, there were about 12 restaurant bankruptcies from publicly traded companies. If people are going out to eat, the number one place is Chili's. However, there is another restaurant trying to hop on the Chili's train that has more to offer than this quality food. Neil Kiefer, a 73-year-old man who has a career in running restaurants, wants to try to get Hooters out of bankruptcy and buy back all the rest of the restaurants. Kiefer has been friends with the original founders of the restaurants and wants to save the company due to the love of the brand. Now it's worth noting that the original owner still retains some of their restaurants, they just sold all the rest of them. Kiefer's plan is to re-Hooterize the restaurant, his words. He's going to have the woman dress a bit more modestly and have a smaller menu. He also plans to follow Chili's plan of reasonable prices for higher quality food. This could work out, and Hooters could become the hot wings and boobs version of Chili's. After all, while this may be shocking, the original founders of Hooters always wanted the restaurant to be family friendly. What's interesting is the founders did keep some of their restaurants, but sold the rest to private equity. It's no surprise that the investors didn't know what they were doing. So, who knows, this really could be a return to form and become more popular again. Now that's just food and restaurants. What about the groceries that everyone needs? Buying in bulk helps save costs, but that only does so much, especially when tariffs impact the cost of goods. However, major retailers like Walmart are actually eating the tariff costs for now, hoping to ride the wave. However, Walmart can only do this for so long. Even though sales are down, it seems like the tariffs are benefiting Walmart as they pick up market share from stores that can't keep up. Amazon is also following a similar strategy of keeping prices down to pick up market share. What's also been helping Walmart out specifically is buying items pre-tariff to stockpile to help ride out the tariff wave. It is inevitable that the tariffs will end, but if Trump's serious about tariffs for real this time, then companies would have to hold out until the next election cycle. While Walmart and Amazon can hold out since they have the cash, smaller stores can't. All the tariffs are doing is giving more market share to Walmart and Amazon and killing smaller stores. Even stores like Target, which have already been struggling, are really going to suffer because of these tariffs. But even Walmart can see that tariff-related price increases are promoting more middle and low-income shoppers to focus on needs over wants, Walmart's executive said Thursday. It's almost contradictory that Trump wants the economy to do well, yet puts tariffs in place which exist to reduce spending. Tariffs are working how they've always historically worked, and people are spending less. Now, one industry that is known for its resilience is entertainment. Now, there was a recent survey that more than half of Americans plan on spending less on travel, dining out, and entertainment. However, it is older folk who are going to cut spending on entertainment, where Gen Z is still willing to spend money on travel and entertainment. In 2025, still, 22% are willing to use debt to pay off for travel, 11% for dining out, and 9% for live entertainment. Gamers are going to need to take out debt with current console prices, as the PS5 increased to $549, the Xbox Series X costing $599, and the Switch 2 costing $499. Yet despite this, the Switch 2 is still reaching big sales. Now, Nintendo has always been the king of handhelds, but their handhelds have been increasing in size. This is similar to the trend of iPhones increasing in size. There used to be a day where everyone had a DS. What if I told you that there's a new device that's going to mimic the 3DS? Well, this company is OneXPlayer, with their handheld, OneXSugar. Okay, the name needs some work, but the handheld looks impressive. The OneXSugar raised $260,000 on Indiegogo. Clearly people still like something about the 3DS. Not only will the dual screens be nice, but also the portability that other modern devices lack. Now, this company originally started out making more powerful Steam Decks. While the Steam Deck is trying to lean on the portable PC aspect, OneXPlayer Steam Deck, the OneXFly, tries to mimic the Nintendo Switch more. Now this most likely will end up like the Steam Deck, where, while it was successful, it didn't disrupt Nintendo Switch. Although, it would be awesome if this thing catches on. The biggest roadblock would be the price, as the cost needs to come down. Also, it's unlikely any games would even support the second screen unless the device reaches massive sales. But it seems like the second screen could be useful for a second monitor. Maybe this will start a trend where gamers play Fortnite on the top screen and have a TikTok running on the bottom. But product reviewers already have been able to emulate DS and 3DS games, so this could be a future replacement for people's old 3DSs. Speaking of Nintendo, I want to take you back to March 11th, 2011 in Japan. On that day, pet dogs were refusing to go outside. Suddenly, in the distance, people saw a huge wave coming their way. Except, it was not just a wave, but a tsunami. You could not outrun the wave as it rushed inland. The water kept rushing in, and homes were destroyed in it, and unfortunately, people who did not flee in time were swept away. Today, in America, we don't have dogs not wanting to go outside, but rising national debt with no plan to decrease the deficit. Across the horizon, there's a big wave coming, except it's made of silver. This is the silver tsunami. There are more than 10,000 baby boomers retiring every day. 1 in 5 baby boomers say they are concerned they will not have sufficient savings to cover basic living expenses in retirement. Also, 26 claiming they have saved less than $50,000. What this means is there will be a massive strain on Social Security and Medicare. The massive wave of baby boomers retiring has been dubbed the Silver Tsunami. You can't really tell when a tsunami is coming far out in advance. You can only know that they can happen. Before the Japanese tsunami of 2011, people have been receiving warnings of a tsunami coming many years prior, and they have all been wrong. People knew a huge tsunami was coming, but people eventually got tired of the false alarms and stopped preparing. When it comes to the silver tsunami, people have been expecting it to hit since the early 2000s. The impact of all those people retiring will hit the United States eventually, but nobody can know when, or how big the impact will actually be. While baby boomers still have money in their retirement, millennials have a different problem. Millennials also are not saving in retirement because the average millennial carries $35,051 in student loan debt with yearly payments of $4,239. It's hard to save money for retirement when you need all the money you can get right now. You need to acquire debt if you want to get in the health sector, and it's been booming with old babies that need to be taken care of. The world needs doctors, and there's a lot of money in it. However, if you're working in healthcare, you need to trade your soul. It's expensive to get the education and accreditations you need, but also there's a lot of required overtime. On average, workers clocked 8.2 hours of paid overtime and 5.8 hours of unpaid overtime per week this year. And the care baby boomers need is not cheap. A study showed that a single person, age 65 in 2023, is likely to need about $157,500 to cover the healthcare expenses in retirement. With so much money that's going to be spent in the healthcare industry, it's hard to tell how much that will impact other jobs, as so much money will be concentrated in one industry. Despite all the recent reports that the economy is great, this is further from the truth. It's finally reached a breaking point where the job market needs help. even at the expense of rising inflation. For those of you still watching, thank you for watching Knockoff Marketing Monday.